Hello everyone, welcome to this short presentation on how to have your PhD and then a startup. Specifically, I will be talking about commercial open source software startups. My name is Dirk Riele. I'm a professor of computer science in Germany, specializing in software engineering and then in open source software. So maybe my age is showing, but South Park gave us 20 years ago a great cartoon on the mysteries of life. Specifically, they asked, or they made the underpant gnomes ask, how do you turn your passion into a profit? Or more, how do you turn something that you enjoy doing into a sustainable living? And the key challenge is the middle part. You know what you like. You also know that you want to earn a living. How do you combine that? I leave it to those with long memory and your imagination what the underpant gnomes' passion was about. For us, it is performing software research and development. So the basic process really is that I'm proposing here is that you perform research and development at my professorship. You may, but you don't have to, get a PhD in the process. And as you are developing open source software along this way, you may then, after getting your PhD, spin this off into a commercial open source software startup. And ideally, step 3, live happily ever after. So let me go through this in steps. To do this with me, you have to become a university employee in Germany, which is a pretty sweet deal because you're salaried according to German tariffs, which are honest salaries, something like 50k euro a year in general. You'll have to do some administrative course with me, but in general, you will be working on an innovative research project that we agree on, where you will continue to develop your programming skills, where you will be building open source software. As you do that, as you hopefully build a community around that open source software, you are learning about user needs for that software. You need to understand requirements and why people use the software and react to that. All the while watching the intellectual property on which you will later possibly build your startup. And also build a team, or help me build out a team that could be turned into a startup. At the same time, you don't have to, again, you don't have to, but maybe you want to be a doctoral student at my university as well, in case of which you have to turn your research and development work in the projects into a dissertation, for which you have to prepare all that work in a structured way, following some research design, carry out the additional research work, which most likely for someone who's doing innovation work will follow a design science process where you identify a problem, define objectives for solving the problem, then actually find that problem solution and evaluate it. And again, turn this into a dissertation. Once you have done that, meaning you have developed useful open source software, maybe there is a community, you will be given, or I can give you, and I'm interested in giving you that opportunity to turn that into a commercial open source software startup. You need a team usually. Sometimes you can go it alone, but in general you need a team. So during these 3 or 4 years of the research project, you will, together with me, build a team or join a team which is developing said open source software. As you do that, again, you need to have that sort of lean startup customer discovery process going, in which you understand market needs, customer needs, so that there is actually potential revenues to be generated to live off. You have to get clear about what it is that potential customers might be buying, so be very clear about what the IP is. Get funding, which I'll talk about a bit more in a second, and spin off and hopefully grow. Hopefully live happily ever after. What that means is up to you. While I support all of that and while I'll be there with you every step of the way, I will ultimately not be in an operative long-term position with the startup. It will be your startup eventually. So let me illustrate that a little bit more. What does it actually mean in terms of the work you will be doing? So for one, there's research and development going on. And so either as a single person or maybe in a team of 3 PhD students here, you will be developing said software. You are responsible for one or more key components. Initially, you may be the sole developer, but work at a university, similar to an open source project, involves channeling the work of others. So rather sooner than later, will you be working with master students, sometimes bachelor students, whose work you will be integrating. So quite quickly, typically, you will move on from being an architect and developer to becoming someone who does architecture still, educates people, integrates their work, and hence you become what we know in open source, a committer to the project, as you are the quality assurer, make sure pieces and things fit, and don't necessarily write most of the code yourself any longer. And this can be 1, 2, 3 PhD students working on different components of the software, organizing themselves or being organized by the professor, by me, to form a team so that a coherent software results. Nobody says this is all work. It could be fun. So my group has multiple such projects. One project could be 4 people, and of course, if you want to be a PhD student, you will also take in the research side of things, which could involve going to fancy conferences and having fun with your team in interesting places, as these conferences often happen to be in interesting places people want to travel to. For example, there's a lot more other fun aspects about it. Talk to me. So there is no startup without a viable business, meaning there must be something that will lead to paying customers. What that something is really depends on the specific product, its market, and so forth. So that's that discovery process. If you talk about open source software or a commercial open source software strategy, you have to think about intellectual property, or let's say complementary features. What is it that you give away for free? What is it that you do not give away for free, and hence helps you convert users to paying customers? The way I look at it from my research is that I distinguish functionality of features, coarse-grained features, into 3 categories. There's the non-differentiating stuff, which is pure community open source. There are the reason to use features, why users come and use your software. There's something useful about your software. And that is the commercial open source, if you will. And then there are reason to buy features, the things that you do not give away, which in some models, like the open core model, is additional software functionality, but that doesn't really work so well. So more likely, for example, it's going to be a cloud service that where you operate the open source software for customers. What specifically is the complement to free that customers pay for remains to be discovered. The good thing about Germany here, honestly, is a huge amount of public funding to get you going. you can go well into Series A, or what would traditionally be a Series A in the Silicon Valley, using public funding, where public funding means it's a gift. The money is gifted to you in return for project work you have to do, but no equity is lost. So you remain, the founders of the startup remain fully in control of the startup as long as they only take in public funding, which can be substantial. So you can see here some sort of pipeline of 5 steps of funding research that leads to startups. The first 3 steps, basic research, applied research, and spinning off, is funding that goes to the university for the purposes of paying you a salary and paying for materials and so forth for developing the open source software that we want. The first 2, basic and applied research, are usually project funds for some project deliverable, which I then have to align with the startup goals. And step 3, the Exist Forschungstransfer, is a particular program aimed at supporting budding startups to become that, successful startups. So the money goes to the university, but it's easily €1 million that funds 4 people plus materials for the purposes of developing some research prototype, that's how the funder views it, some prototype, into something that can be a product. Along the way, you have to found. You may not have founded yet when you take in this particular money, but you have to found during this project. And after that, it just continues. There's just a lot of public funding for startups in Germany. You have follow-on public funding, exists too. You have public funding for specific risky features, KMU Innovativ. You can go big with the recently developed Sprint-D program for the high-end, multiple millions for real breakthrough innovation and so forth. So you see these 5 steps here that you have to take or can take. You specifically can join me at any stage. You can even bring your project and jump into stage or step 3 here with me if I think it makes sense. And then off you go. After this funding, public funding, eventually you will want to stand on your own feet. Ideally, you can do it by your own revenues, meaning you're profitable right away. Maybe it's because you want it like that because it's going to be your startup, or you can keep going for venture capital depending on the market opportunity and how you feel about your company and so forth, all the way to an exit or your lifelong achievement of your company. That's really, really up to you. So I've done that in the past. I will keep doing it. I actually very much like doing it. Right now I have 2 projects where in different stages where I am looking to find people who want to join or build out existing teams. One is around making open data useful for the world. So that's kind of a data science ETL pipeline project. And another one is about open source robotics. In all cases, your main qualification is either to be a top-notch software engineer, software developer, with ideally open source understanding, and later in the process maybe a good product manager, since we also always need at least one business person, if you will. So that's it from me. Please be in touch if you find this interesting. Here's my private and my professional email address and website. If you want to know more about this idea of commercial open source software startups, I recommend my course on the topic, including open content, Creative Commons licensed slides, as well as videos. So with that, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I hope to hear from you. Be safe and healthy until then.